and contract management systems. And the companies that we work with companies of all different sizes. So anything as small as 30 to 40 employees, all the way up to several thousand. We work with different YMCA branches, United Ways. We work with Jack's Federal Credit Union, AB&B Federal Credit Union, construction companies, shipping companies, software, IT, all those sorts of things. We even do work with King's Hawaiian, the bread company. If you'd like to actually see, how they like working with us, we have a video from the talking with one of their vice presidents on the homepage of our website. So go check that out, doc365.com. mydoc365.com. Sorry, I'm a little nervous right now. So moving on, what is our mission? Well, our mission is to, break down silos and get stronger employee engagement across your organization. That's basically a buzz phrase for, again, we want to help you do what you do, but better. Because the truth is, engagement has dropped over the last 3 decades. Recent Gallup poll found that about 33% of employees only 33% of employees are engaged in the workplace. That means about 2/3 on average of your workforce is either not engaged or actively disengaged. That's a big problem. We want to help you solve that. However, that's enough about us. That's enough about Doc365. Let's get on to why you're here. Workflows. So, what are workflows? Well, simply put, they're little mini programs in SharePoint and SharePoint Online that can be used in a variety of ways. Essentially, they're a compound collection of activities that take place throughout multiple steps, and they help you save time and effort by automating tasks that normally would take you time and effort. Essentially, they get rid of the smaller things so you can focus on the bigger things that matter. Simply put, let's take a workflow and kind of break it down. So let's say you are a publishing company. Say it could be a newspaper, could be a magazine, could be books, could be whatever. So say your process for getting something published is, a writer submits something. After they've submitted that something, that something gets sent to an editor. That editor is supposed to review it, and then they can approve it or they can reject it. And if they approve it, it goes on to the next step. And if they reject it, it goes back to the writer with comments and edits that they need to be making. Now, here's the thing. Let's break that process down without using any automation, without using any workflows. So the writer submits the document, and then they email it to the editor. The editor then has to take a look at it. Well, immediately right there is what I would like to call a human pain point. We all know what pain points are. They're issues in organizations, and human pain points are especially prevalent. They're probably one of the largest causes of business breakdowns. So for instance, the writer submits the writer emails their article to the editor. The editor then has to go back and look at it. And the thing is, there's no task created that tells them they need to look at it. So if they don't immediately look at it, that introduces a situation where they might lose it. They go to check their email and they see it, but they're busy doing something else. They're in a meeting. Something comes up and it gets lost in a whole flood of emails. Well, eventually the writer will ping that editor and say, hey, what's the status of this? What's going on? Well, that could be hours, that could even be days. It could even be weeks. It really depends on when that gets caught. But again, that's human error. Another point in this process where human error can be introduced is, say the editor does actually review it. They go over it, they edit it, and they say, okay, it's good to go. They approve it and they send it on to the next step of the process, but they don't notify the writer. Well, that's not that big of an issue. Of course, it is for the writer because they don't know what's going on. And so they'll eventually waste time having to email the editor and saying, hey, what's the status of this? The editor will then have to take a little bit of time to send an email back to say, oh, no, it was approved. You're good to go. That's still time wasted. Of course, then you have a situation where the editor actually rejects the document. Well, then what happens is that they forget to send the rejection back to the writer. Then what happens is that say you have a strict publishing date. Say you're a newspaper and you have to hit deadline is 9 p.m. at this time on this day. Well, the writer doesn't get that, so you approach that deadline. Someone goes to the writer and says, "Hey, what's going on? We don't have your article. So and so rejected it and sent it back for edits," and they go back and check their email, and it was never sent back to them. Well, you run into a situation where the person can't actually make the edit because they never got the notification that they needed to make the edits in the first place. So again, it wastes time and even potentially makes it so that someone can't do their job entirely. Another situation that might come up is the editor forgets to send it off to the next stage. So there's been the approval or the rejection, things go back and forth, and then it's supposed to be tagged for the next stage, but it never does. Well, in that situation, it just doesn't get published. It doesn't go on. And again, we run into a situation where human pain points where human error, human pain points are causing breakdowns in business processes. Now, what a workflow would do is it would eliminate pretty much all of that. So for instance, say you're using a document or you're using like a list in SharePoint Online for this, where the process is someone uploads a document to the list. Well, if you've built the workflow correctly, this is an approval workflow specifically. What ends up specifically more publishing approval is they submit that document. Then specific people in that organization who are responders get a notification that like an email notification or a push notification, depending on the platforms they're using, that they need to edit this document. Additionally, you can set up the workflow so it creates a task for them in the system to actually go back in and review it. So there's an accountability aspect to it. So the reviewer says, okay, I'm going to read over this document. And then they need to say, and then they are prompted to say, okay, is it approved? Is it rejected? At that point in time, they'll say, okay, yes, it's approved. So then the system will tag it as, okay, this is approved. It goes on to the next step. From there, it's then able to go down that workflow pipeline. Essentially, it eliminates that human act, the human error, the human element, where you don't have to worry about things moving from stage to stage because the system automatically does it for you. Again, like I said, it's accountability. It's making sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. The system is there to ensure that, things happen. So what are the really primary ways that workflows are used in SharePoint Online? Well, like I was saying before, publishing approval. Another one is just approval in general. So whether something is, whether a document is approved just in general. The custom workflow that I'm going to be working with later and showing you guys how to build is going to be specifically an approval workflow. Then there's another one where it's collecting feedback where, someone uploads a document to a SharePoint library. Someone within some designated user or group of users in the system is prompted to respond to this. How you set that up, how you determine who is responsible for what, that's more user and group management. That was also the last installment in our SharePoint Basics series. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to refer back to that webinar. Again, it's on our website, mydoc365.com/webinars. Additionally, there's signatures. This is more used for things like contract management or managing your vendors. So if someone needs to get something signed, because SharePoint does have e-signature integration, you can set that up in your SharePoint. You can make it so that someone can digitally sign documents, so you don't have to fax things to people anymore. If you need something signed off within a department, you can just send it off to the person. That manager or leader will be prompted to give their signature, sign off on what's going on. Publishing approval, we basically just talked about that. I walked you through a publishing approval workflow, how that would work and how that would function. And yeah, and then finally status. This one's pretty simple. It's called 3-state as one of the pre-built workflows that you can actually use in SharePoint Online, but I prefer to think of it as status because that's less confusing. Basically, it moves it through, so it'll say, okay, so this is the status of the document. Someone does something to it. This then the document status then gets changed to X, or in this case, X to Y, and then someone does something at stage Y, and then it gets moved to stage Z. And then you can basically just continue on if you want to start using numbers in that situation for this metaphor. But essentially, it allows you to keep track of things and move them along. How do you add workflows? Well, basically, like I said, SharePoint has several types of pre-built workflows that you can use and add from within SharePoint itself, just different templates that you can use. You have to add them to the list, library, or content type at that location. Note that you need to have managed list permission to add a workflow to any of the above, any of what I just talked about. My advice is to keep that restricted to a couple people. While it's good that everyone should be allowed to work with workflows and build custom things that help them out personally, that creates a mess. It creates a big mess where you have conflicting triggers, something happens, something goes in a weird direction, and then suddenly basically things go in different directions, and suddenly you end up in a situation where everything is broken and you're having to revert back to another, to a version of your SharePoint environment that's months or even weeks old, which is a big problem. So yeah, just keep your workflows restricted, keep your workflow restrictions or permissions restricted to a couple people so that you can ensure that no one's causing a mess in your SharePoint environment. Now, in terms of actually building custom workflows, there are 3 platforms that you can use depending on your type of SharePoint. So if you're using a version of SharePoint that's between 2010 and 2013, you'll want to use the SharePoint 2010 workflow platform, as it's so aptly named. And then if you're using SharePoint on-premises for 2013 to on, you'll want to use the SharePoint 2013 workflow platform. We're not really going to focus on that. That's more than just basic workflows there. However, what we are going to talk about is Power Automate. Power Automate is the workflow platform that works best with SharePoint Online. Power Automate was originally called Microsoft Flow. It's essentially a no-code way to build workflows in SharePoint Online. Basically, you have the option of using out-of-the-box workflow templates that you can customize to fit your organization's needs. And you can also build custom workflows, and you can not just tether it to things within the SharePoint and Office 365 environment. You can tie things to Google Drive. If you're using HubSpot for your CRM, you can tie it to HubSpot. You can do Salesforce. Any external, even websites just in general, you can tie Power Automate to those and build workflows that start outside your organization and update information within SharePoint Online itself. Like for instance, say you do a webinar sign up on your website and you want to gather information for that, and you want to send out an email to people with a link to the meeting room. Say you build that workflow and they submit that online, and instead of HubSpot providing them that information, they get an email from webinar@mydoc365.com. Who knows? That's what we use. It's pretty good. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. So moving on, like, what are the benefits of workflows? What are the benefits of using them? First of all, they streamline redundant business operations. Like I've been saying, instead of having to send emails to someone when something needs to be approved, when something needs to be looked at, it just automatically sends it. That way, you don't have to take that. You don't have to take that extra time to do those manual processes. Additionally, it fosters communication within your organization because people know what's going on. When someone does something, you can set it up so it sends a notification to the relevant people so they know what's happening. That way there's no situation where it's like, okay, well, Ted was supposed to be doing this, but I don't know when he did it. I don't know if he did it. Instead, it's, okay, Ted was supposed to do this. Looking back through my notifications, yep, he did it. Good to go. Moving on, speeding up of approval. Susan Davids, what do the notifications look like? The notifications are pretty simple. They're just the regular SharePoint notifications. You can set them up as email notifications, so they go directly to your email, and we'll be kind of showing that off when I build the custom workflow, when I show you how to build that custom workflow. But you can also set it up so they're mobile push notifications, so you can actually get texts from, if you have your phone number entered into your Office 365, you can get texts that sent to you so that you can get those notifications as well. And then also just SharePoint notifications themselves. And then also another thing that I've been emphasizing is human error. You want to get rid of human error as much as possible. And SharePoint workflows help with that. Like I illustrated earlier, by getting rid of those points where people have to remember to do things, or even just reminding them to do things consistently, you're more likely to prevent those situations where something gets missed. And finally, like I've been saying, it keeps people notified of important tasks, because immediately when they're supposed to be doing something, they get the notification to do it. And which ties back into speeding up of approval processes and just processes in general. So essentially, everything is faster and everything is smoother, and you don't have human pain points. Pretty simple. Here's some interesting statistics to keep in mind when it comes to workflows and automation. 45% of current paid activities today can be automated by current technology. On average, workers waste about 69 days a year on administrative tasks. Professionals take about 18 minutes on average to locate a document manually. 60% of occupations could save about 30% of their time with automation. And finally, market research suggests that organizations lose about 20 to 30% of revenue on inefficient processes. So not only do workflows help with your business processes inside, but they also help your bottom line, and they can help you save money as well. So now to the actual part that you're here for. How to work with and build workflows in SharePoint Online. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to switch this over to so here you can see we have a webinar demo environment. Pretty simple, pretty bog standard. Built this just for this. So we're going to go into, say, contracts right here. Right now, I'm going to be showing you how to add workflows from within SharePoint itself. So pretty simple, oh, hey, I'd like to, this is where we keep all of our important contracts, yada, yada. Go right here. Again, you do have to have manage list permissions. Like, you have to have the ability to make edits to lists and everything and create them within a site. Just, you can say, okay, are there any flows right here? I would like to see the flows, and then it'll take you into Power Automate itself, where you can see, okay, well, there are no flows right here. So let's go back here and let's say, okay, I want to create a flow here. And immediately, what you see is you see several different flow templates that you can use. For instance, send a customized email when a new SharePoint list item is added. If someone adds a contract, then it's time for someone to review that contract. You can set it up so that when it gets added, that person gets an email that says, an email notification that says, hey, you need to do this. Or if it's a contract that just needs approval, again, an approval workflow. If you'd like to request manager approval for specific items, it actually goes into Office 365 itself and pulls user profiles. So if you've set up the organization flows within your organization, so who exactly is reporting to who, you can say, okay, this person has requested it, pull their manager. Okay, I need to, this manager needs to approve their request. You can also, if you're primarily working with teams in SharePoint as opposed to just SharePoint, again, request an approval within teams. And these aren't all that are there. You can, it provides you a list based off a kind of custom list based off of what your list composition and everything is to, right here. And like, it shows it right there. And then if you want to see more templates, it'll just take you to the Power Automate website, which we'll go to right now. So this is Power Automate. It's pretty simple. We'll go to the home page. Power Automate is how you build workflows in SharePoint Online. Because, well, it's not the only way. You can build custom coded workflows, but that's kind of, why would you? It's kind of like working with an erector set versus working with Legos. You could technically use SharePoint 2013 Workflow Designer for this, but again, it's like working with an erector set. When Power Automate is essentially working with Legos and working with different booklets. So it's like getting that Star Wars Millennium Falcon set and saying, okay, this is where this piece needs to go. Edgar, can you give permission to have access to a folder to an external person to modify a big document? That is something that we more touched on with external sharing and everything and user access. That's something we touched on more with user and group management that last webinar we did. If you'd like, I can, however, record that question and send it alongside the webinar reminder email that or the follow-up recording that I'm going to be sending later today. So I will address that. However, as it's not completely related to the workflows that we're talking about today, I will, I don't want to interrupt that. So what we're going to do right now is we're actually going, so real quick, this is Power Automate. It's pretty simple. What you can see is you can see, okay, these are the templates you can work with. These are popular services that you can link to Power Automate and your SharePoint environment. So you can link from Twitter, Dynamics 365, Dynamics 365, Google Calendar. So if you're using a combination of Google Drive and Microsoft, which, why would you? Microsoft 365 is kind of superior to Google Drive, but I don't know, that's personal. That's more of a personal thing. So as you can see, you can review your flows right there. If there are action items from a flow, so for instance, there is an approval workflow that someone needs to fill out. If you are an approval, you'll actually see those right in action items. Additionally, if there are any business process flows that you need to look at, those will show up there as well. So these are all the active flows. Here you can see all of the different templates. So these are a mixture of templates uploaded by Microsoft itself or by different users. So it is constantly expanding. Microsoft does prioritize their own, but as you can see, Microsoft Flow community. So essentially, if there's if you can't find something created by Microsoft itself, you'll likely find something that was generated by users within Microsoft's community, which is fantastic because honestly, if you don't have to go out and build the workflow yourself, I don't recommend building it yourself because it's a lot easier to just plug and play than it is to build and play. I will say that. But I am going to show you right now how to build a workflow in SharePoint Online. So what we're going to do for this one is we're going to be building a simple approval workflow for vacation requests, specifically for like HR and everything. So we're going to go back into our webinar demo environment. And right now we're going to go to this list that I've created. It's called vacation requests. Simply put, you just put the title of the request, the start date, the end date, any comments, whether it's approved, and manager comments. Now, these are the different columns that I've added, and these will play a part in the workflow that I will be building right now. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to start from an automated flow. Now, really quick, let me back out. So there are different types of flow. So you can build instant flows. So these are triggered manually as needed. So say someone uploads a document, but there's a special aspect of it that is not part of your regular day-to-day activities, but you have a process built out for that. You can build an instant flow for that. If you have a scheduled flow, so for instance, if you want to put an event on people's calendar, so for instance, like you do a monthly marketing meeting or a monthly performance meeting, or a quarterly evaluation or something like that, you can set up a flow that automatically puts that on people's calendars. You can do a UI flow. This is a bit more complicated, but essentially you can add like a button or something on your SharePoint homepage or any other part of your SharePoint site that people can click on, and it launches that workflow. And then finally, business process flows. These are the more complicated flows, but they're essentially moving things along from stage to stage. So if you're tracking a project through different stages, like for instance, with our project management system, we use a custom business process flow that visualizes where different tasks are in the different stages. So for instance, going through, you have the initial, sorry about that, basically moving through to, so say stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and then eventually you can actually move it through and keep track of that. And it'll update certain aspects of that task or that project as you move it through the different stages. If you'd like to see more of that, and if you'd like to see how that works with our project management system, feel free to sign up for a demo for that. You can actually find that on our website, mydoc365.com. Go under the products tab, find project management, sign up for a free demo. It's just 30 minutes, no obligation. But anyway, actually creating the workflow itself. So we're going to start with when an item, so we're going to call this vacation requests. Now you don't need to put the flow name. Microsoft will actually name it, but it's better to label your flows and everything. So we're going to say when an item is created, and immediately it's going to take us into the flow itself. So there's a couple things that you should immediately see right here. First of all, adding a new step. The save button, which you want to save regularly, the flow checker, which will tell you if there are any errors or if there are any potential issues that might come up with the flow, and then testing the flow. Testing a new flow does take some time. It's about a 5-minute process for everything to process, and then you have to go in, manually test it, and it takes time to go. So I won't be showing you that process in the interest of time. However, I will show you how to build this. So to start with, you want to go to the site address. We're going to go with webinar demo environment because that's where we built the thing. And then we're going to go to list vacation requests. Pretty simple right there. Move on to choose an action. So here's what you're going to want to do. First of all, you're going to want to pull a user profile. Specifically, you want to build my profile. Basically, if you're the manager, so that it will notify you of what's going on. You really don't need to do the advanced options for this. Now that it's gotten your profile, you need to do a response, which is pretty simple. Nope, start and wait for an approval. Pretty simple. You get to choose the approval type. So there's approve, reject, everyone must approve. So everyone who is part of the approval process needs to approve for it. The easiest way to do it is to just set it up as first to respond. You can also set up custom responses, but again, I don't recommend doing that. Let's see, going to the title. So first of all, create a title for the approval. You want to use dynamic. Basically, dynamic content it allows you to pull the information. Dynamic content is essentially an expression, except instead of having to fill everything out here and having to manually type things in so that you can grab the ID, the content ID, and then SharePoint will know to pull that content ID and the specific coding language of SharePoint and Microsoft 365. Instead, you can just type using dynamic content title. That's the title of what they want to do. And here's who it is assigned to. In this instance, I'm assigning it to me. I'm the person who needs to approve this. So what they'll say is you need to say, so details, so this is what gets sent to the person's email as the notification. Nope, do not type in there. Created by, display name is requesting time off from start date to end date. And that's it. That's all you need to do for that section. Well, you do want to have it spelled correctly. So then what you want to do is you want to add a condition. Conditions are essentially the if-then aspect. So what will happen is that someone will do the approval, and it'll be, okay, it's either approve or reject. So with the condition, you want to add the condition, in this case, responses approver response. So what that right there, it immediately goes there, and then you click this to go into the condition itself. You want to choose approve. You do not need to make a second condition for if responses answer response is equal to rejected. Instead, you just need to do this, and then it'll break into two parallel trees. One is an if this happened, if yes, yes, if the response is approved, this is what happens, and then no, if the response is not approved, then this is what happens. It's pretty simple. You don't really need to do anything more beyond that. So go into here. If yes, send an email. You'll see V2, V3. Generally just go with V2 for right now. That will change over time as Microsoft updates the actual portion there. So what you'll want to do is you'll do add dynamic content created by email. Don't click there. Time off request approved. And then you'll want to add the body, which is answer, no, responses approver name has approved your request time off. And then if you have, and then what you'll want to do is you'll want to do manager comments. Now, we don't have an expression for manager comments yet, but we will in the second portion of this. Because once you've sent that email to the person, then what you'll want to do is you'll want to do update an item. Oh, 1 second. How do your flows update when V2 becomes obsolete? So what Microsoft will do is they will send out a notification to people that, hey, we're making the switch to this. You should probably go to V3. At least I'm pretty sure that's how that happens. Let me do some more research into that, and I will get back to you about that. I will send that as part of the recording. How to turn in the web address at the first step. So basically what you do is you go to, when item is created, it'll ask for a site address, and you can enter in a custom site address. So for instance, if globalinfinite.sharepoint.com/sites/webinar demo environment. However, if you log into Power Automate with your linked SharePoint, with your linked Microsoft 365 account, it'll actually just pull all of the sites that you have access to that you can create workflows for. However, yes, you can just enter a custom value if you'd like to. However, again, you need to have the permission to do so. So here we go to update item. And again, it pulls the site address. You can choose a different address. So if you're actually linking things across multiple lists and everything, so say you have a personal list or you have a more hidden list, or just separate lists across different departments, say someone belongs to multiple departments and everything, you can actually set it up so that it updates them in that separate department, so long as you have the list, because so long as there is a list there that you want to apply the information that is being updated to. However, you do also want to in this instance, you do want to update the initial list. So webinar demo environment, and then you go to ID, which again, you just go to the ID. And what that will do is, nope. So that will update the item and everything. Nope, list name, give me a second. So vacation requests, and then what'll happen is you open up this portion and then you'll go with, okay, again, title. And then you'll want to go to add start date and date, not there. Don't enter in comments. If it's approved, yes. And then what you want to do is you don't want to put the manager comment. Instead, you want to put responses comment. So basically, when someone responds to something within Power Automate, they have the ability to add a comment to that. What you so going back to here real quick. So under the manager comment, what'll happen is when that manager actually either approves or denies what's going on, by setting this up this way, the manager comment will be updated. That column will be updated with the response from the approval process. So then what you want to do is you just want to set the same thing up on the other side. So send an email. Again, same thing, add dynamic content created by email. Time off request was denied. Responses approver name has denied your request for time off. And then you just want to do manager comments. Because these are both being updated at the same time, the response from here will be entered into manager comments, and then that'll be sent as part of the email. Because they're both happening around the same time, you don't have to worry about that field being blank. So again, move on to here, update item, go into the same place. Again, webinar demo environment, list name, vacation requests, the ID, and then again, just fill out all the information. Title. You don't need to fill out start date and end date for this portion. This is just a personal preference. Make sure to set this to approved and no, and then again, any responses comment. And really quick, before you do anything with this, no errors, no warnings. And with that, that is how you build a basic custom workflow within SharePoint Online. Really quick, there's another question prior to sending. So you can update the item prior to that. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is because you are using this binary of the response yes or no, so are going to get updated at the same time, essentially. You can technically do both. You can swap these around, which if you would prefer to, you can. However, they do functionally happen at the same time. So the email will get that. However, you do need to set both sides because of the condition. You could set up the workflow so that it just sends whether it was approved or not to the email. However, it's better to have that branching tree. You can basically set these up how you want and customize them as you will. What you want to do now is you want to go back to My Flows. You can actually review all of your requests. You can see when it was created, whether it's on, what type it is, what the plan is. Free of it, so you can see when it was running everything. And then if you want to go and delete it, you can create a copy. You can submit it to Microsoft as a template if you wish to. You can turn it off whenever you want. You can also edit it whenever you want, so long as you have permission to do so. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. And again, with the templates, we'll go into I'm not going to go through the full process of building a template out for your purposes, but pretty simply put, if this would load, say you want to save Office 365 to OneDrive for Business. What you do is you click right there. It would give you a full description of what's going on and kind of show you an overview of the workflow. And then you can create the flow and it'll start working. And then what you can do is so you create that flow within your SharePoint environment and everything. And then what you can do is if you want to make changes to it and edit it, you just go in here, click edit, and open everything up, and you can play around with it as you please. 1 second. But yeah, so that's how you build, add and build and share basic workflows within SharePoint Online. With that said, does anyone have any questions? I know I've been answering questions all throughout the workflow, but I was just wondering if anyone had any final questions before we finish things out for the day. Feel free to either type them out or speak within, use your microphone. I don't see anything popping. Oh, I do see one. Nope. Are you? Yeah, no, you're welcome, Edgar. Yeah, so that is 1 second. Let me pull this up. Can you copy elements of one workflow to another? Yes, you can. In fact, you can. One of the easiest ways to do that is to just copy the whole workflow and then edit it based on what you want. But yes, you can also copy individual elements from workflow to workflow because it's all within SharePoint Online. So with that said, I think we're going to finish out today. If you'd like to schedule a free demo to talk to us about any one of our productivity solutions, or if you have any more questions about workflows, or you're wondering how we use workflows, because the thing is, I would like to emphasize that I showed you basic workflows. Some of the workflows that people build and work with, and especially the ones that we work with, are essentially I've shown you how to play taps. I've shown you how to play, hot cross buns, essentially. Some of the workflows are like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, massive, huge, big, organization-wide shifts in how you function. I don't recommend trying to build those yourselves and take the time to do it, because it is time consuming. You have to, it is a months-long undertaking that you have to test, and you're essentially throwing things at the wall the whole time and hoping they stick. That's why I recommend going to professionals, people like Doc365. I mean, I'm a little biased on that point, but yeah. So if you're interested in talking about that, if you're interested in using SharePoint workflows to revolutionize your workplace, make things easier, eliminate that human error, yes, we do. There is a cost to have workflows built for more complicated ones. Specifically, if you want custom one-off workflows built, you would want to work with our partner company, Global Infonet. You can find them at global-infonet.com. They do larger, more custom workflows. We focus on specific productivity solutions that use workflows within those productivity solutions to make those changes. However, if you do decide to go with any one of our productivity solutions, like our project management, our intranet, or anything else like that, you can request custom workflows be added to that productivity solution. Because again, our goal is to just make sure that you can do whatever you want to do and whatever it is that makes you successful, but better. So if you'd like to schedule a free demo, you can email us at info@mydoc365.com, or go to our website, mydoc365.com, go to the products tab, find the product that you'd like to work with, that you're interested in, go there, fill out the demo. The demo is 30 minutes. It's completely free, no obligation. You're not gonna have to pay for your time. And if you'd like, you can also sign up for a free trial of our services. So it's just for 1 week, you can try everything out. We'll train you in how to use it. So, we'll show you the ropes, and then for that week, you can have full access to the system, so you can see the changes that can happen at your organization with using any one of Doc's products. If you'd like, you can also call us at 904-309-9970. If there are no other questions, I hope that you all have a great day. I hope that today is not the highly stressful day that it is. And yeah, thanks for coming out to the webinar. This has been Quentin with MyDoc365. You will be getting a recording of this later today. I hope you have a great day.